Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The mission of the Freehold Township School District is to honor and support every learner every day on the journey to become curious and engaged members of a diverse global community. A notice listing the time, date, and place of this meeting was posted on the public bulletin board of all Freehold Township schools, on the entrance door to the administrative offices to the Board of Education, on the district website, at the office of the Freehold Township Clerk, published in the Asbury Park Press on January 6th, 2023, and sent to the news transcript on January 4th, 2023. I'd like to invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call.
Mrs. Brand,
Present.
Mrs. Cosolino, Mr. Gargiulo,
Here.
Mrs. O'Sullivan,
Present.
Mrs. Thoman, Mrs. Vendatoli,
Here.
Mr. Williams,
Present.
Mr. Amoroso, Mrs. Lambert.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. I'd like a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from June 27th, 2023.
Okay.
Got that?
Yep.
Okay.
Was it 27?
Three, four. I was like, oh wait, I had that quorum panic. I lost to Eleanor. My
There's really
eyesight.
It's really a quorum for
Now,
minutes.
next meeting,
No,
you should have
but-
a few abstain.
Minutes are just, it's just
Yeah.
a formality. As long as the majority of people in this room vote for it, so you're good. There's nothing in code that says
About minutes.
correct.
Okay. Communications.
The only communication we have this evening is enrollment. May of 23, we had 3,485 students. June of 23, we had 3,483, compared to June of 22, where we had 3,501. That's it for this evening.
Good evening. I'd like to thank everybody who came out to join us tonight, and I will have very or little president remarks because we have a presentation this evening by Ms. Montgomery, who is going to present our map presentation from the spring. But most importantly, I'd like to move on to the administrators section of the report because we have students in our audience tonight that we're going to recognize for various essay contests and geography Bs, and that's the good stuff. So I will turn it over to Dr. Brethauer.
Thank you. Do you want to come over to do the certificate? Hi, everyone. So I apologize that we had so many student recognitions. A few of you, I don't think, made it to the June agenda. So we wanted to take time, even though it's summer, there's a lot of vacations, and some of our teachers are stuck in floods with the weather. So I apologize that it's just me and Miss Lambert and the rest of the board here to congratulate you. So I would like to ask Mr. Smith to come up. He is principal of the Barcalow School and really the middle school administrator here tonight. And we're first going to recognize the students from the geography day at the Barcalow School. Do we want to say anything about it?
Sure. It was a geography meet that was conducted through all the grade levels, and then it was down to the finals, where we have our three finalists. So, the third place.
Sorry, we could do with, yep, Ethan.
So,
Oh, you can't hear? Oh, sorry. We'd like to welcome Ethan Cohen to come get his certificate. Congratulations, Ethan.
Have you ever seen those questions?
Does Mom want to take a picture? Let's take
Wow.
a picture for
Right.
Mom. All
They're hard. They're very hard.
right. Thank you, Ethan. And then I believe the first place who took it all, Lucas Salzman. Lucas, yes, who I met earlier.
you just missed only one question through the entire thing.
Wow.
job. So the competition at Bar Club was really, really close between all three of them. I think it was a difference of one question, but Lucas persevered. Right? Was it one question you missed? I think it was like the first one, and then he got the rest of them right. So it was really a great competition.
What grade are you in, Lucas?
I'm going into 8th.
Going into 8th, so we have another geography B coming up. No pressure.
You studied for this? How do you know all this information? I'm just curious.
I don't know. I like geography, and it's really, yeah.
You're right. The question that they asked
guess.
are difficult.
So hard.
So hard. Like, I don't know how you got them all. I don't know how you didn't got them all as well. Was there any one question that stood out?
Not that I can remember.
I get it. It's July 20.
I
get it.
I think if our second place winner, he'll be recognized in August. He said that he went down on a technicality, something about the renaming of something.
Renaming of a country.
Of a
Yes.
country, right? And he said, oh, so, yeah.
Lucas got it.
Lucas got
knew
it.
the new name.
He knew the new name, yes. So it was very challenging. Thank you for being here with your family.
Thank you.
Thank you. And for the Eisenhower School, speaking on behalf of Ms. Gambino, Mr. G, and Mr. Krupp, who is underwater right now, we would like to acknowledge several students tonight. So Carl, are you here? Carl, come on up. Let's start with you. Oh, you look so handsome. Let me shake your hand. Love the attire. So, Carl, you were the lodge champion at the local level at the Monmouth County American Legion Safety Essay Contest. Do you remember what that essay was about?
What safety means to me?
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about what safety means to you?
Just having like somewhere where you don't have to like be afraid, or you can walk around freely and you don't have to like be scared that like you don't have to fear like that something's going to happen to you.
Excellent. Very good. So congratulations. We're very proud of you for representing Eisenhower and our district. Nice time. Love it. Next is Sia. Am I saying it correctly? Sia, come on up, Sia. Another, not to put you on the spot. Congratulations. And why don't you shake Miss Lambert's hand here.
Congratulations.
So you had the Elks Lodge essay contest, and you also were the local lodge champion. Do you remember what your essay was about?
Yeah, it was about my American dream, and that was to increase the women's payroll, because women and men have like a difference in their pay, like still, and women get like much less than men these days, even though they're doing the same job, maybe even better.
And this is fascinating because I talk to my daughter about it all the time, because I think when we are out on maternity leave, we never catch up. I think that's what, in essence, is happening. Right, something like that. Thank you very much, and congratulations. Thanks for being here tonight. And David, come on up, David. Geography B champion. We have 2 champions in the house. We should have an Eisenhower Barkalow Geography B off. I think that would be great. So, David, do you have a question that stuck out with you?
Remember the last question, which was, in which African country is Mount Kilimanjaro located?
Which African country is Mount Kilimanjaro? Anybody have any guesses?
Kenya.
It's the summer,
Close.
Diane. Kenya? No?
Who was close?
Anybody? Tanzania? Yeah. Very good, Tanzania. All right, we have a winner. Congratulations, David, on behalf of Ms. Gambino, Mr. Krupp. Thank you for being here tonight. A big round of applause for all of our recipients. We're so proud of our kiddos, our middle school kiddos. It is cool to know stuff. Even in the middle school, it is cool to know stuff. So I'm really very excited as a middle school person to get the one to have the microphone tonight. So without further ado, we are going to turn it over to Miss Montgomery, and there'll be a couple of minutes when she's walking over to the computer, which means students, you can dismiss yourself if you like to go get ice cream. And while Miss Montgomery is walking to a presentation that you're like not going to want to listen to, all right, on test scores. So good night. Thank you for coming. Go get some ice cream. Congratulations, everybody.
Great job, guys.
You want this mic or that mic? I have one here. I just want to put the screen, want to put the screen down, but Joe beat me to it.
You won't be offended that way.
If you go get ice
Yes,
cream too,
yes.
Mr. Smith,
No,
go for it.
thank you.
Get another scoop. If you'd like to bring it back. No one ever does.
I apologize what my back's going to be to you all. Watch your head, Bob. Just watch your head.
We didn't even have pizza tonight. Someone would deliver ice cream.
Yeah, we had lunch. We had lunch.
In curriculum?
We had our meeting during the week last week. Because Mary was there. Yeah, so we had lunch. Okay.
Nice.
It was lovely. All right. But no, Bob is not about food. Bob doesn't eat himself. Nothing. Nothing, my friend Bob. All right. Good evening, and thank you. I'm apologizing in advance to have my back to you. I'll try to work around, and but if you have questions as I'm going, feel free to jump in and interrupt. We're going to spend some time this evening talking about several things. One is a review of the accomplishments of our district goals. We're going to talk about some of the curriculum work that the district has accomplished over the course of this year. We're going to look at our spring map data. We're going to take a sneak peek at what's happening in the curriculum office this summer in preparation for next year, and then look at the survey results from the parent and family engagement survey that went out in the late spring. So I'm going to start with our review of our district goals. As you may remember, at the elementary school level, we do two goals in the district, one quantitative, one qualitative. The quantitative goal at both the elementary and middle school focused on students in grades 3 through 5, and then again in 6 through 8, looking at the language arts strand around reading informational text, key ideas and details. We identified students in these grade level bands whose RIT score on the map fell below one or more grade levels below where they should have been in terms of grade level proficiency. And we worked with those students and targeted intervention and targeted small group instruction to move their progress up by at least one RIT band. So not one RIT point, but a band. They had to go up several points in that area. At the elementary school level, we had 466 students identified in this group across all 5 elementary schools, which equates to about 41% of our elementary population. Okay, so that was our elementary goal. Similar goal at the middle school, again, looking at informational text, key ideas and details, and literary text. So at the middle school, we used those two strands, whether it was reading fiction or reading nonfiction, but that same idea of looking for key ideas and details in the text. Again, we identified students who were in the fall tested below grade level, and we looked to move them up one RIT band. At the middle school level, we identified 746 students to participate in this goal, which represents about 61% of our total middle school population. Some of the things that we did to address this goal was obviously some pretty intensive map data analysis. One of the things that MAP does for us, in addition to just assessing kids, is giving us instructional targets for kids. So once we identify where kids are at within these strands, MAP tells us what kids are ready to learn next so that we can design small group instruction for kids. So we spent a lot of time working in the MAP platform, identifying what kids need instructionally. We provided targeted, focused small group instruction around these New Jersey standards for students. We provided a tremendous amount of professional development for staff in terms of test data analysis, using test data to design instruction, supporting teachers in accessing materials to help them with this instruction. We spent time focusing on the ELA companion standards. This goal did not live in the language arts classroom. Our science teachers, our social studies teachers, even our math teachers worked with students on helping them achieve this goal through these ELA companion standards. We spent a lot of time working with teachers around small group targeted instruction, supporting the resources and the tools that teachers had to do this kind of small group instruction in their general education classrooms. And then obviously, lots of ongoing discussions with our administrators about how they could provide leadership and support in their buildings to help teachers and students achieve this goal. Need like a mic drop meme on this slide. We achieved this goal with great success. At the elementary school, 86% of the students that we targeted met the goal. And at the middle school level, 88% of the students that were targeted met the goal. So this is really, yes, go ahead, clap. This is very exciting. This is very exciting work for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is our kids made great progress. This is also really exciting work because our teachers worked their tails off to get their students to get to this place. And Mrs. Johnston can attest to this was a true team effort across the board, right? While this was a goal around language arts, our science and our social studies and our math teachers were talking about how to support kids reading nonfiction text in their content areas. This really was a true example of it takes a village, and our kids made great growth as a result. This is just a quick visual around why we use MAP and how important MAP is to help us in making these decisions and measuring student progress. The lighter blue bar at the top, elementary, middle, and all, is the winter MAP scores for students in this strand. And the darker blue bar is the spring MAP score. So you can see how much progress and growth happened for kids between winter and spring, right? And so when we think about why we need to keep focused on what our goal is throughout the entirety of the year and not lose momentum mid-year, but also how much progress happens between that winter and that spring assessment, right? Like our kids were even lower in the fall. That's why they were identified for this goal, but the marked progress that happened over the course of the year was really extraordinary. The other goal that we had as a district was our qualitative goal. This one is linked directly to our strategic plan, and it talked about establishing and maintaining meaningful relationships with families, community, and schools as important contributors to student success. This was part of our post-COVID community engagement portion of our strategic plan. So schools and the district made a concerted effort to create opportunities for increasing parent engagement throughout the district. So these are just some of the examples of ways that we did increase parent engagement in the schools throughout the course of the year, including school and district newsletters, our Board of Education community roundtables. Mrs. Vendatoli, I will be, as this slide presentation goes on, there will be an opportunity for a fall one that we can talk about. Middle schools brought back their career days and hosted 2 tremendously successful career days for their students, and tons of great feedback from teachers, from families, from the presenters, and most importantly from kids about what those days were. Family challenges. If you have anyone, any students or friends or neighbors in the elementary schools, you have heard about the monthly math challenges, the monthly reading challenges, the activities that families engaged in with their students that engaged in learning curriculum connections at home. And those were super popular and super well received by families. The One District, One Book initiative that we did at all of our elementary schools was tremendously successful, so much so that I didn't really anticipate preparing and planning for it for next year, and resoundingly the elementary principals were like, we're doing it again, right? So yeah, I'm going to figure out how that's going to happen. Yeah, because it was tremendously successful. And again, when we get to the slides around the community survey, there was lots of positive feedback from the parent community about how successful the One District, One Book initiative was in homes as well. This district parent engagement survey was also something that was linked directly to the strategic plan. It was a targeted goal in our strategic plan and one that we put out. We had several school-based curriculum nights ranging from things connected to the One District, One Book, the Wild Robot, but also things like family fitness nights, right? All of these opportunities for families to come to schools and be engaged in activities and learning with their students. And then through some parent workshops. So we are looking to do all of this and more moving into next year. So these are small on the screen, and I apologize for that. I can provide printed copies for all of the board members, or even put this on the website if that would be helpful. But this is just a small
scattering of some of the accomplishments of the curriculum department over the course of this year. You'll notice some common threads across content areas, including district common assessments, standards-based, and standards-aligned assessments at the middle school levels, bridges assessments that are standards-aligned at the elementary school levels. Our science and social studies teachers will be doing that work moving into next year, so you can see that it's trickling from language arts and math into our other content areas. We worked on the implementation of a tool called Intervention Manager, which is linked to our Link It platform, and it is integral in our rollout of our new intervention model moving into next year. We also spent time this year working on the revision of our identification criteria for our gifted and talented students. One of our goals in our strategic plan next year will be a review of our program model for gifted and talented students, and maybe making recommendations for changes around that as well. Go ahead. I see it on your face. Go ask. This year. Yes.
Do you feel that it identified students that were not?
So that is not the purpose of Intervention Manager. The purpose of Intervention Manager is a platform to build and track students who receive interventions.
So they were oriented.
We already had a process for identifying. So the tool itself is not doing the identification. Our student data is doing the identification. So moving into this coming school year, we're using this tool now that all of our data lives in Link It and that we have Intervention Manager working. One of our, there's a slide coming up, I'll see when I get there. One of the things that we have done is used our district local data to identify entrance and exit criteria for students for intervention. Because right now, there is no standard way to be identifying kids who need intervention. So we did a full-scale analysis of our local data, and let me just hold that thought. I want to get to the slide because there's a visual on that slide that will be helpful. Okay, thank you. Spring map. Just some reasons as a reminder why we give map. Map is different than NJSLA. NJSLA is an achievement test. It's given once a year by the state. It measures how students it measures how students compare to the state standards related to achievement. NWEA MAP measures how students grow compared to themselves across the standards. So again, I mentioned earlier that we use MAP to not just monitor student growth, but identify instructional needs. The platform is tremendously helpful in giving teachers sort of a roadmap to what kids need instructionally. And it also has a tremendous amount of resources in terms of helping teachers to plan for instruction. And then, of course, we use all of that to provide staff development to our teachers in team meetings and articulation meetings and things like that. These are the norms I will reference and come back to. I just put a slide in here in case you have questions. We can come back and forth. I'm going to go through ELA and for math. And one of the things that I did differently in this year's presentation that I thought would be helpful for you is on the graphs, I identified where our students are. The bar represents where our students are. And there's a colored line across the top of each bar that represents the national norms. So you can see where the students in our district are performing as compared to the national norm. Okay? So, Joe, which button is the little red button, red dot? Got it. Okay. So you can see this is, for example, kindergarten in the spring. Our district average was a 156, and the national norm was a 150. Okay. So same thing here in second grade in the spring. Our students' average grade was 190. National norm was 156. So one of the things that you might notice on this graph is that across the board, other than in the fall of first grade, but I'm not worried about so much about fall as I am spring, because again, we're looking at growth, our students are consistently outperforming the national norm. One of the things you'll notice as we move forward in the 3 through 5 and the 6 through 8 that we have comparative data. This year, We did not give MAP to our K2 students last year, so I don't have comparative data. This is our first year doing MAP. Okay, so this is 3 through 5 ELA. Again, looking at the colored bar as compare, or the colored line as compared to the bar, our students again are outperforming in all 3 grades, 3, 4, and 5, compared to the national norm. And you can see that that's consistent across years, right? So our performance in grades, 3rd grade and 4th grade and 5th grade is pretty consistent from year to year. And we are consistently around that national norm across all 3 grades. This is 6 through 8. They squish it onto one slide. So we have Eisenhower's data on the top graph and Barkelow's data on the bottom graph. And you can see with one very small exception, our district middle schools also consistently perform above the national norm.
Is the national norm considered grade level and above? The national norm is considered 58th percentile at grade level, yes. At that grade level, yes.
All right, so we're going to do the same thing looking at math. This is K-2. Again, we don't have year-to-year comparative data because we didn't do MAP with our youngsters last year. But again, as a whole, we are looking at students who are performing, our students are outperforming the national norm in all of the primary grades, K-2. Similarly, we see, a common theme is that across years, from one year to the next. Similarly, not any market increases or decreases, and again, exceeding that national norm number. And then finally, 6 through 8, again, Barkelow at the top, Eisenhower at the bottom. One thing to note about math that I always like to point out is the difference between 8th grade math and algebra, right? Because we offer a high school level course, all of those kids on the far right-hand side who get pulled out of 8th grade math and take algebra, we don't have norms for that because that's a high school level course, but our norms for 8th grade are slightly below the national level, but that is because we typically funnel most of our higher performing math students into the algebra course. And still, we're not very far, right? Like, so here at Barkelow, our 8th grade average was a 229. The national norm is a 230. Same thing for Eisenhower. So we are just slightly, ever so slightly below the national norm. All right. Preview of some plans moving into next year. Carrie, this is where I'll get to your question and we'll talk about it some more. So first, one of the committees that we had that worked through this spring was our K-2 reading resource selection committee. As you may remember, I had shared that we reviewed several different reading programs to take a look at potentially changing the resource that we use to teach primary reading at the K-2 level. The committee reviewed all of these programs on the left-hand side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different programs, 8 if you count SIPs as separate from collaborative classrooms, so 8 different programs looking at both the foundational reading, phonics, awareness component, also the reading comprehension. And coupled with mediocre to not good reviews of many of the programs on the list, along with the fact that the state is, due to adopt and has not yet adopted new standards for reading K through 12 that we will have the 23-24 school year to review and align our curriculum with for implementation in September of 2024, we decided it was not the right time to be adopting new curriculum materials. So we are going to take this year to do some really targeted work around our existing curriculum materials. We are building new pacing guides for all of our K-2 using the existing materials that we have. Our kindergarten, the only thing that we'll be updating in kindergarten is we're buying the new reading units of study that'll support reading comprehension. Our phonics units we currently have in place. We will be providing a tremendous amount of staff development around the use of those units. They were initially rolled out during COVID. Additionally, there is a whole phonemic awareness component to the program that the staff have never received training around. And we're going to build a pacing guide that looks similar to a traditional teacher's manual for a reading program, right? Like you would open it up and you would see, here's our unit of study. It includes reading comprehension skills, phonics skills that are linked to it, decodable readers, handwriting, so kids are learning how to write the letters that they're learning how to sound. They're learning the correspondence of letter and sound correspondence. All of those things will be connected. We're creating a teacher's manual for the kind of program that we know kids need for reading, because we didn't find anything out there that was as good as what we can. You okay? Okay. No choking during my presentations.
Sorry.
But if you do, I can save you. Yeah. So our what we are proposing moving into this year is we're going to adopt the new Teachers College reading units of study for reading comprehension for kindergarten only, so that we have an opportunity to pilot. We're building these pacing guides for K1 and 2, and we will take this year to measure student progress and data around the implementation of this model, with the understanding that moving into this coming year, we have new standards that are being released. We will review the new standards, and probably in the springtime of next year, definitely in the springtime of next year, I'll be making recommendations about what we'll be doing sort of larger scale moving forward. That being said, we also plan to build one of our district goals around kindergarten through second grade reading. We know, based on the earlier slides in this presentation, when you identify a goal and the whole village participates in the success of that goal, our kids and our teachers achieve great things. So you will see a district goal in the fall when we present our goals that will be around kindergarten through second grade early reading. Another thing that we worked on over the course of the spring is the revision of the elementary school standards-based report cards, K-5. Diane and I were chatting this afternoon trying to remember the last time that those report cards were touched, and we dated back to somewhere around 2016. That sound about right? Yes. Well, wait till you see. Mr. Williams has samples he can pass around so you can take a look at. The team did a really extraordinary job identifying standards that are much more tightly aligned to the standards and to how we teach. We are moving to trimesters at the elementary school, so students will receive report cards 3 times over the course of the elementary school, but every kid will get a report card every marking period. So kindergarten through 5th grade, 3 marking periods, a fall, a winter, and a spring report card. One of the things that we heard a great deal from both teachers and families was that the report cards were not meaningful to parents because they didn't understand them. So we also built, or I built, with support from the committee, a parent guide, a companion parent guide. So this is our community roundtable. Yeah, this is our community roundtable. So there will be a published parent guide that goes along with these new standard-based report cards that gives parents information about how to read them, how to understand the standards, what do the standards mean, as well as access to standards-based assessments that students will be taking so they can understand where these scores come from. Like so it's the kid, they don't feel like their students are arbitrarily being given grades, but those grades are linked to how their kids are performing against the standards. The executive function rubrics that were already built into the report cards will be easier for parents to access. Right now that parents have to access them through a grade book in Genesis, and there's like several fiery hoops that parents have to jump through in order to find out how their kids are doing socially and behaviorally. All of that will be built into the report card template. They have to go to one place and see everything. Students will receive grades for related arts as well. We worked with the related arts teams throughout the course of the year. They identified standards in each of their content areas, so they'll be getting grades in each of the related arts areas. And there will be a section for narrative comments as well on these report cards. And yes. The other thing is related to elementary school report cards. And this was feedback that came directly from the teachers. One of the concerns or the confusions that parents have is that because parents aren't necessarily as versed in the standards as teachers are, when you say to parents, this is how your child is performing against the standards, parents don't know what that means. So we're going to open the Linkit parent portal. Linkit has a parent portal. So parents can see how their students perform on standards-based assessments. The data will live in Linkit. Is there a question? Yep.
Basically, truly a snapshot once every trimester of a student's progress towards standards. Correct. So we wouldn't average it at the end of the year.
There is no averaging. There is no averaging. And one of the things that these report cards reflect, because that's not what standards-based measures are. The other thing that is new about these grades or grading scale on the report card is that it speaks to standard expectations at the end of a school year. One of the things we heard a great deal of parent feedback about is, I don't understand how my kid can be progressing at one point in the year and then not progressing at another point in the year around a standard. So we redesigned the whole grading scale so that the expectation is that students are achieving an end of year grade level standard, right? So it is seen more as a growth model.
At the end of the year. Which is good. Yes. But where on here does it say that you met that target? If you meet it, then welcome to your
Correct. Yes, you would know it by the grading scale at the top. So it says you meet an end of year standard or you exceed an end of year standard. So those letters in the grading scale at the top will be reflected in each of the boxes. Yes. They are letters that but not like A, B, C, D. They are letters that represent. It's exceeding standards, meeting standards, progressing towards standards.
So basically like an IEP.
It's a report card based on standards. Yes. Yeah. But so there's the grading scale will be at the top so parents understand what those letters represent. Yeah.
Like PPI, FA.
Not the same letters, but the same concept. Not the same letters, but the same concept.
Yeah.
Okay. Carrie, this goes back to your question before about intervention, right? So currently our intervention pyramid is flipped upside down as this picture looks, right? Intervention is intended to be targeting students moving up the pyramid as they need greater intensity of support, right? But what's happening right now is that we have a whole lot of kids getting tier 3 intervention, and because we're servicing so many kids at that tier 3 level, they're not getting the frequency and the duration and the consistency that they need of a tier 3 intervention because our caseload is way too high and we're not appropriately identifying kids. So our goal moving into next year and using Linkit Intervention Manager as the clearinghouse for this is to flip that pyramid back around. We've got several committees working this summer. Again, I shared working on entrance and exit criteria for each tier of that pyramid, as well as what we're calling a program profile guide. So we will be giving to teachers and to interventionists a tool so that they can look at the profile of a student. They can look at students' data. They can say this student is struggling with reading fluency, and we will have a resource guide for them. If this student is struggling with this, here is a series of resources that we have in district that you can use to support that. Right now, there isn't any consistency about how kids are being placed with particular intervention programs across the district, and this will streamline that process. We've also drafted a standard operating procedure manual that will be given to everybody around our processes for intervention. Back to your question.
So, new question.
Okay.
Okay. So, I like that. I like that general education should be able to be 89.
Yes.
Are we putting it to 5 months?
So,
Saying that
yes.
We're giving it 6 weeks, we're giving it 4 weeks. Not
Yes.
RTI.
That exactly like RTI. So what's going to happen at the tier 1 level is our instructional coaches at the elementary schools and at the middle schools will be working with the administrators to do what we're calling data sweeps 3 times a year. Following fall map data, the instructional coaches, along with some selected data team members, will analyze their school's data and make recommendations around tier 1 interventions. These are interventions that 80 or 90% of our kids need, right? So that we look at math data from Barkalow and we say everyone in 6th grade, but for a handful of kids who can get some enrichment project, need to review this standard. The coach will write lesson plans for what that needs to look like, and give it to the classroom teachers to teach in their room. That's a tier 1 intervention, right? Tier 2 will be Tier 2 will be also in the classroom, delivered by the classroom teachers, but these are kids who are struggling at a little bit higher level, right? These are kids who, based on that fall map data, are not making progress around a particular standard, but even at a lower level than the tier 1 kids. Those kids are going to get pulled into targeted small group instruction, also by the classroom teacher. This process will be the interventionist will manage the tier 2 and the tier 3 level. Interventionist will do that same data analysis process, will review data, look at this entrance and exit criteria that we've identified, and build an intervention plan for individual kids. Then they'll hand over that intervention plan to the classroom teacher along with lesson plans. Here's what Terry needs to focus on numbers and operations around this particular standard. Here is 6 weeks worth of lesson plans and progress monitoring. I'm going to check back in with you every 2 weeks to see how Terry's doing, meeting that goal. We're going to actually pilot 2 different tools for progress monitoring through the fall semester to do that. And then tier 3, the only kids that our interventionists are going to be working with directly are those tier 3 kids. Those kids are going to get intervention 5 out of 6 days in a 6-day cycle, because that's what intervention needs to look like for those kids, right? Close that gap, right?
So, tier 1 and 2 would be in the classroom.
Correct. Yeah, and our intervention cycles are going to run somewhere around 8 weeks. Thank you. Thank you. And then this is the great news that we get to end with. So our parent engagement survey results. We received, so the survey went out in 2 different communications, one in the spring newsletter or the summer newsletter and one in a school messenger blast. We were asking parents and family members to share with us their perceptions of both the district, the school their students attend. We asked for feedback or suggestions regarding parent engagement, topics that they might be willing to share or bring information to the district around. And then we specifically surveyed parents. Do you have an area of expertise that you can bring to us as a district that can help us do better for your kids? We had 313 families reply to the survey, which I thought was a great turnout. It closed on the 30th of June after we, again, sent those several communications. So the first question asked parents about their perception of the district. And we looked at this from, positive, which included very positive and positive, or negative, which included very negative and negative. 92.7, nearly 93% of our community feels positively about our school district. That's really powerful. Right, I know. That's a cheer. That's absolutely a cheer. That's really exciting, right? And especially on the heels of COVID and feeling like families were feeling disconnected and we were worried about kids struggling. This is all really, really good news. We asked parents then to narrow down their perception. Now think about not just the district as a whole, but where your child attends school. Parents were invited to complete this if they had kids in different schools, right? If they had a student at an elementary and another student at the middle, they could fill this out for their respective kids. Again, really, really strong positive responses. Collectively, just shy of 95% of families feel positively about the school that their student attends. Really exciting. The other question that I thought was really interesting was this knowledge of curriculum. We wanted to know from parents, do you feel like you are knowledgeable about what your child is learning in school every day? This really tells us whether or not parents genuinely feel connected to the learning that's happening in the classroom. Again, just shy of 90%, 87% of families felt positively or very positively that their students, that they are knowledgeable about what their kids are learning each day in school. They're coming home and they're connecting with their kids about school, and that's wonderful. And then I just highlighted for you some of the feedback that we received on the survey. I just pulled a selection of both positive and negative because I think it's important that that we know what families are sharing with us in terms of feedback. The thing that really struck me about all of the open-ended feedback that parents gave, many of these things up here that were intended to be critical feedback for us are things that were already on our radar, things that we're already working on, right? Like transportation is needed for after-school sports. We know we're working on it, right? Like, so these were things that we are working on already, and things that are on our sort of to-do list for next year, making the website more accessible and easier. Allie Williams, thank you for our amazing new website. Right? More opportunities to engage parents at the middle school. We know, the career days brought parents back in, and we're looking to capitalize on that moving forward. So even the critical feedback is good because I feel like it reinforced for us. These are things we know. The community, we and the community are all on the same page about the things that we're doing in terms of next steps, in terms of community engagement, family engagement in the schools. So that was exciting. So I'm going to pause for questions. And then go ahead. Got it?
Ms. Montgomery, that's very impressive. Thank you. Question, has the learning loss from COVID closed?
That's very interesting that you should ask. I just shared with the curriculum committee last week a new article that was just published in EdWeek about a week or two ago. It highlighted the research that NWEA, which is the company that publishes the MAP assessment, did. They surveyed upwards of 6 million kids across the country, and determined that the gap is not closed, in fact, yet. And what their data tells us is that the early beginning stages of COVID, that spring of 2020, was really what hit us most hard. And it because kids were out of school for approximately 4 months, that 4 months is where kids are falling behind. So the data is telling us that kids, that it will take an additional 4 to 4.5 months in that range for both math and language arts for kids to catch up.
And that includes us.
It includes everybody. That's nationally.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think that our data is really positive. Our kids are performing consistently. We are not seeing, any market drops in our student
It's impressive.
data as a whole, and we are hanging tight with the national norm. So I think those are all good things. Would I like to see, would I love to be able to stand up and show you a much higher bar? Of course I would, but we're moving in that direction in a slow and steady.
It's in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Secondly, when was the alphabet and or numerical system of grading changed? Was it recent? Was it 10 years ago?
I think it dates almost back to 2016. So we use traditional numerical grading at the middle schools, and that's not going away. That will stay. It makes sense in terms of our kids transitioning to high school and, that isn't going anywhere. But there's a tremendous base of research around using standards-based reporting to, to talk about student progress at the early childhood and elementary level.
Okay.
I have extra copies. I can share report card. I have extra copies. You don't have to hoard the report card templates. The only other thing that I'm just going to share with the board, because you're like by the end of the fall, you're going to be tired of seeing me. Per Department of Education requirements, our access scores were released this past month. Access is the assessment that we give for our English language learners in the district. I have to report those scores out within 60 days of release. So our second meeting in August, I will be sharing those scores with you. At some point in the next month or so, I anticipate the Department of Education will release our DLM and our NJSLA scores. DLM is the assessment that our students with significant disabilities take, and NJSLA is the standards-based assessment. Those were both given in the springtime. Those scores, again, should be released in August, which means I will be reporting them out to you at some point by the end of October. Mr. Williams is going to share it in his committee report. Sorry.
Air conditioning. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Ms. Montgomery, thank you so much for that presentation. But most importantly, thank you for the work that you've done. We are aware, the board members are aware, I don't know how much the public is aware of how much pressure this board put on you specifically, in particular, which I'm sure then the domino effect went down to those that report to you and all the way down to the teachers in the classroom for work and progress that we wanted yesterday. And you kept saying you need to be patient, you need to be patient, but you did work in a lightning speed that I'm sure was no, you're still working, but we appreciate the effort, and I'm not sure that everyone understands what that took to get that done. But I want you to know we do understand and we do appreciate it.
It truly does take a village.
100%. 100%. Who may not even know how much pressure the board put on top. They're just we're like, what? Yeah. So we appreciate the work all the way down, right down to the students who put the work in themselves as well, because it wasn't easy on them. It was a lot. It was a lot for some of them to undertake and, and stay in the grind every day to, keep working toward it. So again, thank you so much. Okay. So I guess at this point, we go to public participation. This is the first opportunity for public participation. If anyone wishes to address the board on any item that is on the agenda this evening, please step to the podium, state your name, and write your name and address on the sign-in sheet. Statements should be limited to 3 minutes in length and should not be abusive, obscene, or defamatory in nature. If anyone would like to address the board on an agenda item, now is the opportunity to do so. Okay, no takers, so we'll go to Personnel Committee meeting. Ms. O'Sullivan.
Okay, today we had a committee meeting, and people in attendance were Dr. Brathauer, Mr. Gargiulo, and myself. We discussed and reviewed the agenda, and we also discussed and reviewed summer staffing updates. Okay. Looking at number 3 for resignations, I would like to move resignations as stated. I'd like to move new employment as stated. Number 5, change of assignments as stated. Number 6, change of assignments and salary adjustments for 2023-2024 as stated. Number 7, salaries for 2023-2024 for lunchroom assistants as stated. Number 8, leave of absence as stated. Number 9, evaluation tool for 2023-2024 school year as stated. Number 10, student teacher practicum observation placements as stated. Number 11, bilingual evaluations 2023-2024 as stated. Number 12, additional compensation Wilson instruction as stated. Number 13, additional compensation transfer of assignment / room as stated. Number 14, additional compensation, safety trainer and recertification as stated. 15, unpaid days as stated. 16, district honoraria as stated. 17, ESY staff as stated. 18, PBS summer committees as stated. 19, summer IEP meetings as stated. Number 20, curriculum committee as stated. 21, certified substitutes as stated. 22, non-certified substitutes as stated. And that is it.
Does anybody have any questions? Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Brand? Renata?
Yes, yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Gargiulo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Sullivan?
Yes.
Mrs. Van Vitoli?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mrs. Lambert?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Do you want to welcome?
Yes.
Yes.
I apologize.
That's okay.
I just want to take a minute to welcome Lauren Wilsonelli, who is joining our technology department as the secretary. As you know, I'm stealing Laurel O'Brien in my office, and Bob stole Tracy Ambrose. So it was a little card game we have going on. And I also do want to give a public shout out to Allie Williams, who worked very closely with Joe and Andrew to get our website up and running with the new format so it can be read. And she is an unofficial member of the technology department. And Joe just welcomed his first baby boy. All of these things are positive things.
Congratulations. And you know what, Allie, you remind me of the show years and years ago. Remember in Living Color?
Yeah.
I got 9 jobs. I got 10 jobs. She does it all.
She does do it all.
10 jobs.
Yes, 10 jobs.
So
Yes.
thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move on to curriculum, and it is Mr. Williams. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Curriculum met on the 20th of July at noon. The attendees were myself, Mary Cozzolini, and Assistant Superintendent Rebecca Montgomery. So a lot of my notes were already presented by Ms. Montgomery, but I will touch on a couple of the highlights that we discussed in committee. First and foremost, wanted to comment on the parental or the parent engagement survey. I was impressed by the results, but not surprised. And that was committee wide when we saw those for the first time. And we were also impressed, but not surprised by the number of responses we got to the survey. We talked about the new tiered system for support of our students that require intervention, and that will be rolled out to the staff come the fall. Miss Montgomery will be presenting the NJSLE testing results no later than November. So we'll see her again.
And again, and again.
And again.
I'm like the bad penny.
And then with the access scores being presented at the August 29th meeting. So we will see her again. We talked about the MAP science assessments. They will be administered to our 5th and 8th grade students in the fall and spring. And we did discuss, we were given our copies, as I shared with the attending members, board members tonight, the updated K through 5 report cards. And when we first kind of discussed this and the first kind of, looking for how we can improve this, one of the things I came right out with was the new comment section. And I think also based off on some of the feedback we got from the survey results, communication with the teachers and the parents, I think that comment is really going to enhance, that comment section is really going to enhance that and take care of, one of the things that we heard back on the survey. So again, I get thoroughly impressed with the new report cards. As a committee, we were, I shouldn't keep saying I was, but we were, and again, thank Ms. Montgomery for a wonderful presentation tonight and also all the hard work that she's done with this.
Thank you.
Lastly, I would like to recognize Katie Harms and Laura Sicilione, who presented on the topic Putting the Heart in High Frequency Words instruction for K through 2nd grade at the Paramus Summer Literacy Institute. I can't read my own writing, I'm horrible. I'm sorry. And also Bonnie Hohenschild, I said it wrong before too. I apologize if she's watching. And Meg Campion will actually in the future be presenting at the New Jersey Science Convention and will be discussing scientists as readers, building and using a library in the science lab. And also as a committee, we talked about having these presenters come in at a future meeting to present, to show us this presentation. Obviously if they want to scale it back, whatever the case might be, but in some form, essentially showing us these, presenting to us a shorter scale of these presentations. Because I think we should highlight these, these wonderful educators as well. So from the agenda, we'd like to move number 3, course reimbursement as listed. Number 4, rescind course reimbursement as listed. Number 5, home instruction as listed. Number 6, 2023-24 virtual or remote instruction plan as listed. Number 7, affiliation agreement with Kane University as listed. Number 8, affiliation agreement with Rowan University as listed. And that's all I have for tonight.
Any questions? Have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oh, sorry. I shot it before. Okay, moving on to finance, facilities, and transportation is Ms. Menditoli.
Thank you, Mrs. Lambert. The Finance, Facilities, and Transportation Committee did meet this evening. In attendance were Mr. DeVita, Mrs. Williams, Mrs. Lambert, and myself. The items we discussed were the year-end financials. While we have some money to place into reserves, this was the lowest amount since we became self-insured for healthcare. We've discussed sale of buses. We have too many spare buses and are looking to sell some of them in the upcoming months. We discussed the facility use policy, making some minor language changes to the policy, and a recommendation to increase the rates since they have not been updated in several years. We discussed Ms. Williams' work on the website and the new calendar, where the new calendar will allow the board and the public to see upcoming events for each school. We got a construction update. Bob let us know about the ongoing construction projects and the motion for the professional services contract to review the issues with the chillers at West Freehold. And we discussed the giraffe in the Route 537 and Stillwell's Corner Road expansion that's been going on and being discussed for years. The The county will be asking us to give them an easement on some land for the expansion of both roads. So Bob will let us know when we get anything formally presented for that. And we went over agenda items. It was a flash meeting. Right. Any questions? So then I'm going to move all the agenda items. Number 3, bills and committee meetings, but number 3, bills and claims. We have total bills in the amount of $3,436,264.66. Payroll $3,165,919.02 for a grand total of $6,602,183.68. Number 4, travel and related expenses as listed. Number 5, transfers as listed. Number 6, ratified transfers as listed. Number 7, the settlement agreement as listed. Number 8, the commission for the blind contracts as listed. Number 9, the wellness policy assessment tools as listed. Number 10, approval of the competitive contract proposal for computer adaptive standards-based assessment 24-06 as listed. Number 11, the out-of-district contracts as listed. Number 12, the contract with Apple Computers as listed. Number 13, the maintenance reserve account as listed. Number 14, amended ESS ER2 grant as listed. Number 15, the amended ARP grant as listed. Number 16, professional services contract for the West Freehold chiller and heat pump source piping system assessment and report of findings as listed.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Oh, sorry. Summer is difficult. There's a lot of us in and out on various weeks.
I have one thing for new business, old business.
Okay.
Last Thursday, I got to attend the summer band camp concert over at Barcelo. Very awesome. And want to thank Dr. Brethhauser as the director did.
Mm-hmm.
I'll thank her myself. They did an awesome job, and he was very complimentary of the work that they did together to bring this camp to fruition. It was an awesome concert. The kids did a great job.
Thank you for attending. If it's not on my calendar, like he told me, and then it slipped my mind, so I feel very remiss. Mr. Crawford worked closely with Bob DeVita to make this happen. It does no cost to the district. It's a minor fee for parents, and we are able to service a lot of kids over the summer in 2 3-week sessions. So we hope to be able to continue. And thank you to all the volunteers who donate their time.
Yeah.
There are tons of high school, college, teachers.
Come back.
It's all volunteers. We couldn't do it.
He's actually started to integrate them, because a lot of them are music majors, as he explained. So the first piece that they did was actually a piece written by one of the former students that the children put on, and she conducted it. And then on another song, he brought up another former student who's conducted the orchestra, conducted band. It was really fantastic. And again, they don't have a lot of time to put this together.
No, agreed. Yeah.
It was like I said, it was a quick turnaround mornings, which is hard in the summer to get. I can tell you, my daughter was in the band. Full disclosure, and it was sometimes it was a little. Hey, you got to get up and go. So, but the kid, the students certainly get credit. Everyone gets credit for this. It was a fantastic event.
Thank you.
Good to know. Yeah.
Public.
Um,
Just one last reminder: I know who is not going to stay at the conference if you're going, but if you are staying, I need to know what hotel you'd like us to book.
Okay.
From the email I sent out last month, because otherwise you'll all be staying in the parking lot at the convention center in somebody's car.
Okay. Pretty much, yeah.
Right.
Also, I mentioned at a previous meeting that policy may be moving. Neil and I spoke about this a couple of months ago. I only heard back from one board member who was concerned about shifting things in the middle of the year. So if anybody else, and we haven't discussed that yet, but if anybody else has any concerns about that, let me know. But I do want to remind you, this is not the middle of the year for this district. It may be our middle of the year, but this district started a new year on July 1. So things happen here July 1. So it's a little bit of a mindset shift. I get that it seems like it's in the middle of the year for us. It is our middle of the year, but it is not. This is their new beginning of their year, and it makes sense to do things now. So if timing was your only concern, hopefully that puts that to rest. But if there are others, reach out to me and just let me know. And again, we'll get back on the retreat bandwagon very shortly.
Can I make a plug?
Sure.
Just wanted to say to everyone out there watching and everyone here that we have open postings for part-time teacher assistants. They are salaried positions. They are a percentage of a full-time. It's 5.5 hours a day. It's a perfect gig for someone who's trying to manage a family and a job. We're also hiring for lunch assistants, and we are now paying $15.50 an hour. We have positions vacant around the district. So, and if you're interested in subbing, we just found out today, while there was legislation that allowed people who have 30 credits who are progressing towards 60 credits to sub, you now, if you have 30 credits and you're not enrolled in any other classes, you may get your substitute certificate, your instructional substitute certificate. That was hot off the presses today. So if you have 30 credits and you're interested in being a substitute, our rates are the same as last year. Please reach out. Our application is on the website. That's easily to find right now. You can also contact HR. We'd love to onboard you before we begin school.
Okay. With that, we will move on to our second opportunity for public participation. This is an opportunity to address the board on any item that affects our school district. If you would like to address the board, please write your name and address on the sign-in sheet. State your name for the record. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes in length and shouldn't be abusive, obscene, or defamatory in nature.
Hey everyone. Is this on?
There you go. That's it.
Okay. My name's Zane Halcott. Last time I was here was about a month ago, and I brought up my concerns about parents not being informed by the school when it comes to certain topics that involve the children. And I hate to break it to you, but my concerns have just got like a little bit worse. I guess it's because in the past month I've been around town talking to a lot of parents, and there's two things that always came up that was in common. One is that they didn't even know that this was going on, and two is that they agree with me that they want to know what's going on between their child and school. So, excuse me. So the one thing that I have a hypothetical situation, a question, I guess, of a hypothetical situation, but I don't think it's that bad of a hypothetical situation at all. One thing we were talking about is what would happen if something bad happened to the kid or the kid did something bad, and then how would they know if the school knew anything about it? And then if the school finds out, or if the school does let people know that they knew about something that the parent didn't know about some situation, what would be let me think. I guess what would be the consequences? Like, how would you take care of that situation if... sorry, it's just getting distracted when you guys are talking to each other and everything.
Michelle's the president. She speaks, so we don't take questions from us.
Yeah, you don't have to answer the question. Yeah, I don't expect you to have an answer for this question. But the whole thing is, if something bad happened to the child or he did something bad and the parent doesn't know about it, that you do an investigation and finds out the school is involved, it seems like the school's going to get in a lot of trouble for that. It seems like the parent's going to be really upset about that. It seems like everyone's going to lose and the child loses on it. When you could have a...
I have to be honest, I'm not really sure what you're asking.
Well, it's a hypothetical situation because there's information that you're not telling the parents?
I wouldn't know anything about that. So I don't know anything about that. So I
Well, it's
don't know
part of
what you're talking about.
the policy. What is it? The trans policy. You have to refresh my memory. I think it's 56, 57. I forgot what it is, but I mean, it's pretty low. Are you telling me that there's no information that the school holds from the parents with every situation?
You said if a child does something,
Something bad. Right. I don't, that's what
No.
no.
No, that's.
If there's,
Well, I mean,
if
there could be
there's a-
something going on
That's a judgment.
because the
There's
school
a-
is talking to the kid that he could be having some kind of problem.
Well, having a problem in doing something bad to me would indicate that there was some action that occurred that required some sort of disciplinary intervention because it violated our school code of conduct.
Oh no! Well, what
How
happens
that's
if?
handled is very
Excuse me.
clear
But what
in our
happens if?
district.
What happens if the child hurts himself though, and it was something that was going on? It was a discussion that was only happening between the child and the school, and the parent had no idea that the situation's going on at home.
We have policies
We have
that address
policy,
that.
and so when a child is in harm's way,
Okay.
parents
Yes.
are notified if there's a bullying investigation, if there's
Right.
discipline.
We're not talking about bullying. We're talking about just something. If there's bullying going on, I'm hoping you're informing the parents. But I'm talking about the situations that happen where you don't have to inform the parents.
Yeah, if you want to email
Yep.
more specific questions, we can have them answered for you outside the board meeting.
Okay.
I can't answer in hypotheticals because we have various policies
Uh-huh.
and your questions aren't specific enough to be answered, honestly. So if
Okay.
you have specific questions regarding school discipline, you can address them to Dr. Brethauer.
It's not a discipline
If they
problem at
regard
all.
to our curriculum, it would be
Mhm.
Ms. Montgomery, and any other school policy, you
Uh-huh.
can address directly to Mr. Dickstein,
Who's Mr. Dixon?
the superintendent,
Oh, okay. So, all right, I'll talk to him then.
who's in charge of policy.
All right.
Okay?
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Your microphone.
The start of your comments referenced that parents that you were talking with in the community were not aware of things happening in the school. And I just want to refer back to the survey results that I shared earlier, that overwhelmingly the parents in our school community responded that they
I was
do.
talking about the education, though. I thought that's the education material. We're talking about policies that are in school.
Okay.
That's what I was talking about.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks, guys.
Thank-
Good evening. My name is Deb Smith. I'm a Freehold Township resident, and I've addressed the board before, and I'm happy to come back again and to just say thank you to all of you for your amazing leadership. Over the last few months, I've made it a practice to attend some of the area school board meetings. So where do I begin? I'll start with gratitude that our town is not embroiled in controversy and has not shamefully violated New Jersey law and made the news in a most unflattering way. I'm grateful for your steady leadership and for following the law, which is 5756, based on policies written by experts in the field. I've heard testimony from those countless experts, and I've learned so much in the process. I'm a 40-year professional social worker, retired, but my background is in medical social work. So what I've done is I've leaned into the experts, and I do hope that the board will do the same. I've heard from psychiatrists, psychiatric nurse practitioners, social workers and therapists working with the LGBTQ community who have unequivocally spoken out, encouraging that the policy not be changed in any way. It is a fact that this population faces extreme depression, elevated suicide risk, and homelessness. Some argue that parental rights are being challenged, and I'd like to challenge that narrative. I'd like us to reframe that narrative and suggest that these policies actually help support a family, the entire family, by protecting their children. From a practical perspective, I'm a taxpayer and have been for nearly 38 years. My daughter, at age 30 now, is an extremely successful product of Laura Donovan and Barkalow. Special props to Mrs. Johnston. Acknowledgements to Mrs. Pagels, Tumulty, Leslie Rubens, all incredibly influential in developing her skills as a writer. I'm deeply, deeply grateful for them and for all of the other educators and for the guidance of this board. I value our schools, and I want to keep our reputation as is, and do not want us to be unduly influenced by outside influencers. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board? Any questions or comments? Okay. Okay. Seeing none. I thought you were going to address it. We have a taker? Seeing none, I want to thank you all for coming out and participating this evening. Wish you a happy and healthy summer until our next meeting. Enjoy, hopefully, non-rainy weather on any random day, as that's how it goes these days. And have a safe trip home. I'd like a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor, say aye. 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 Thanks, Renata. Renata, be well. See you soon.